Uh, what does the sun do in Antarctica?
In Antarctica, the sun does not rise above the horizon for most of the year. It remains below the horizon during the winter months and only appears above the horizon for a short period each day during the summer. This unique phenomenon is due to Antarctica's location on the southern hemisphere, which causes the sun to be out of sight for much of the year.
So a lot of people have been asking for my take on the final experiment. First problem I have is what they actually called this observation. If they actually went and saw the sun above the horizon for 24 hours, that is an observation. It's not a scientific experiment. It's not any type of experiment. It's simply an observation. The biggest problem I have, first of all, is this guy right here. This is Pastor Duffy, who stood and preached a sermon where he said there is nothing immoral or nothing wrong with lying and deceiving. And he also claimed that there is nothing in the Bible that says it is a sin or immoral to lie and deceive people. That right there should be your first red flag. If you're going to trust someone who admittedly lies and deceives people and thinks there's nothing wrong with it, if you're going to trust someone like that, then I can't even help you. Another thing, this photo was taken in 2016 in November. This photo was taken in the so-called final experiment in December of 2024. 8 years apart, and yet the snow patterns did not change at all. Another thing, these guys were running around wearing t-shirts, no toboggan, and no gloves in the coldest place on earth, a place that's like, it was minus 17 degrees, felt like minus 30, and you're not going to wear a toboggan or a big coat or gloves or anything, and you definitely would not pause for a photo op. Pause to take a photo without your shirts on. And look, some of these guys are just wearing t-shirts. There's a guy in a Batman t-shirt, another t-shirt, and none of them are wearing a toboggan or gloves in this photo, except for one guy here, but he's not wearing toboggan, no toboggan, no toboggan, no toboggan, no toboggan, a hood, and that's just a hoodie, a sweatshirt, no toboggan, no shirt. Come on, there's nobody on earth that is that warm-blooded. It's ridiculous. You actually think that they paused to take a photo and took their shirts off for it in a place that cold, the coldest, windiest place on earth? Are you kidding me? This is how people normally dress when they go to Antarctica. This is how they dressed when they supposedly went for the final experiment. Come on, this is mocking you. This is mocking the people that believe it. They think you're this dumb. You couldn't see their breath. They were using vape pens to fake their breath, and their excuse for not being able to see their breath was because it was too dry. Well, when you have hot, moist breath hitting dry, cold air, it turns to vapor. You would be able to still see your breath. I don't care how dry it was. You go, breathe out hot, moist breath, and you would see it. You would definitely see it. They're the only people that ever went to Antarctica and couldn't see their breath. Another problem is, go and watch all the footage you want. They were all way too comfortable to be wearing that little dab of clothes, t-shirts and sweatshirts, no toboggans, no gloves most of the time. It was way too cold. They were way too comfortable, and there was never any wind at any time. And it's the windiest place on earth. In some places, the average wind speed in Antarctica is 50 miles per hour, with wind gusts up to 150 miles per hour. But yet they just happened to go on a week that there was no wind in Antarctica. And they just happened to go at a time when it was so dry that you couldn't see their breath unless they used a vape pen. And there was only one person that was able to summon his breath, and he could only do it the one time. But we all know it's because he hit a vape pen. Could literally see him ducking down, hitting a vape pen from a different camera angle. And he also just coincidentally paused his live stream before he hit the vape pen, turned the camera back on, resumed the live, blew out a little bit of breath, said, "See, there's breath. What's up now?" But he couldn't summon it again. His excuse was, "Oh, it hurts. You got to breathe real deep, and it just hurts to do that because it's so cold here." Well, you didn't seem very cold. You had on a jacket that was paper thin. Nobody was complaining about how cold it was. I'm in North Carolina, and if I go outside, if it's like 20 degrees outside, and I'm out there more than 5 or 10 minutes, my hands start to go numb, they start to hurt, and I start complaining about how cold it is. In fact, everybody I know does the same thing. You go outside this time of year, like, "Gosh, it's cold out here." And you hurry up and get back inside. They're all way too comfortable. It seems to me that it was filmed in a studio. Now, did they actually maybe fly down to Antarctica to make it look real? Absolutely, they could have done that. But the 24-hour sun and all those live streams, they were definitely filmed in a studio. Another huge problem is the shadows. The angles of the shadows are way too different. I mean, drastically different, just from there to there. You don't get that with the sun. You only get that with a very, very close light source, like studio lights. 4 directions in one frame. That does not happen in real life with just the sun as your light source. Another problem, the sun was way too far above the horizon the entire time. It absolutely would not be that far above the horizon the entire time. Like I said, look up what the windiest place on Earth was, or is. Antarctica's at the top of the list. Wind speeds that can reach 200 miles per hour. But again, coincidentally, when they went, there was no wind. Here's another problem. Prior to this trip, it was always understood that there was 24-hour sun at the North Pole, but not the South Pole, or what we call the ice wall or Antarctica. In fact, I've been looking into planning my own trip to Antarctica so I can study this and some other things myself. I've always wanted to see the ice wall. Well, when you look at some of these travel guides and start planning a trip, I was looking into going in December solstice like they did, which is the start of summer down there. It says you have up to 22 hours of daylight. That doesn't mean you're going to see the sun for 22 straight hours. 22 hours of daylight, which means part of that time the sun could have already set, but you're still seeing daylight, what we would call twilight. And even this travel, like I said, this travel guide tells me that I can expect to see up to 22 hours of daylight. No mention of a 24-hour sun. All of your old school explorers back in the 18 and 1900s, none of them documented 24-hour sun. In fact, the Gleason's map specifically says that in the December solstice, there is no visible sun beyond the 80th south parallel. So when did that change and how? Question the narrative, people. God bless.
So look at the second problem here. See if you can figure out what's wrong. I hope you're paying attention. Let's slow it down. How does that happen? How does the sun hide behind a tiny, thin little pole? So look at the second problem here. See if you can figure out what's wrong. I hope you're paying attention. Let's slow it down. How does that happen?
Something is wrong here. Dead giveaway. Dead giveaway.
Charles, thank you very much.
Giveaway.
Thank you.
Can anyone save the credibility of the final experiment after vapegate? Well, 2 people have already had a go. One Glober, and believe it or not, one very well-known flat earther. So first up, we got deep inside the rabbit hole, Flat Earth Dave, trying to defend the credibility of the final experiment. And we've got a commenter on Dave's channel who goes on to say, "Hey, Mr. Dave, thank you for all you do. Any thoughts on Austin's breath with the vape? That was the strangest thing I saw while they were in Antarctica." Dave goes on to say, "Yeah, it wasn't cold enough with the dry air to produce a lot of fog. Only when he had warm air from inside the building did he show vapour. There are plenty of videos where you can see every breath. It was 70 degrees here the other day and there was no breath visible." Naturally, I had to comment. So he held his breath from the cabin to the laptop. Get real, Dave.
Something is wrong here. Dead giveaway. Dead giveaway.
Charles, thank you very much.
Giveaway.
Thank you.
Son el rebaño que miran cómo les mienten. Miren las sombras para cualquier lado, porque esto fue hecho en un estudio. Ustedes se lo creen, escuchen su comentario, se lo contesto, suscríbanse al canal y compartan.
It took me a while, but once I realized that if I fall, I wouldn't have nobody to catch me. And I damn sure wouldn't have nobody to pick me back up. So I have to make sure I don't fall. And that hunger is different, just to stay afloat. But it also led me to distancing myself. Because sometimes I don't know who to trust, and sometimes I don't know who to love. But I do know I gotta do that for myself.
Hey, but let me hit you with this. If Earth all bumpy, then how it cast a perfect shadow on the moon? Boom, I just solved the mystery. You welcome.
Okay, I'm reading this book, The Elusive Curve, by Billy Zagorus, Billy Zig. I got it from him nearly, it would be 2.5 years ago now. So here we go, chapter 11 I'm up to, and I found it really funny. I found a piece of a weed leaf in the margin from last time I read it. Within moments of a good start, pigs. Within moments of arriving at the cafe for their regular weekly meetup, Sam leaned across the table towards Max and asked, "Hey Max, there's just one big question that's really bugging me about this flat earth thing." "What's up? Hit me with it," replied Max, raising his sunglasses to the top of his head. "Well, mate, if the earth is flat, there would have to be millions of people involved to keep it a secret. And I just can't see that happening. It's unfathomable. A whistleblower would have leaked it by now, don't you reckon?" Max gently rubbed the light stubble growth on his face and responded, "Actually, it wouldn't require millions of people to be involved. It would just require billions of people to be asleep and never to question the world where they live." That's a fair point. And regardless of the shape of our Earth, it appears that most people are in some kind of deep hypnotic sleep these days. Unfortunately, they just go with the flow and never take the time to question anything with an open mind. Exactly, buddy, but we can't blame them entirely, as most people have been bamboozled with nonsensical, trivial issues, including materialism and pseudoscience, for far too long. Just like virtuous, obedient sheep, hey Max, taking a sip of his hot cappuccino, then scooping a spoonful of the fluffy foam into his mouth. Well, you know, a flock of sheep are far easier to control than a pack of wolves. Spot on, Sam chuffed, snapping him a quick wink.
I just realized the real reason that NASA doesn't have any stars in any of their space pictures. It's because the Kabbalah rules that they operate under force them to give us some kind of disclosure in every deception. So it's not just laziness or some kind of oversight on the editing job. They're intentionally not putting stars in those photos because they're telling us that the stars are embedded in the firmament. You know, kind of like the founder of NASA did on his tombstone. "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork."
Ever wonder why we're told not to question the shape of the earth? Let's uncover some of the lies that they've hidden in plain sight. Why does flat earth matter? because it exposes deception at the highest level. It isn't just about the shape of the earth, but it is about deception, control, and hiding the truth of God's creation. Let's talk about Admiral Byrd. He led expeditions to Antarctica in the mid-1900s and discovered vast lands beyond the South Pole, completely untouched by mankind. But here's the interesting part. Shortly after his findings, the Antarctic Treaty went into place. To this day, it restricts exploration under the guise of preservation. Why can't we freely explore this massive continent? What are they hiding? Consider this: if the Earth is flat and Antarctica is not a continent but a massive ice ring surrounding our flat plane, it completely unravels the mainstream narrative. It also proves that God's word in the Bible is true. Genesis describes the firmament, a dome separating the waters above from the waters below. This aligns with what ancient cultures and scriptures have always told us. But the bigger picture is they want us to believe in a godless and infinite universe where life is meaningless. The globe model supports this deception and pushes narratives like evolution, the Big Bang Theory, aliens, that strip us of our divine connection to God. Flat Earth proves that we are unique, created, and loved by a divine creator. Ask yourself, why do governments and global organizations enforce treaties like the Antarctic Treaty? Why is independent exploration so restricted? And why are flat Earth believers being ridiculed instead of debated? It's because truth threatens their system of control. Stay vigilant, question the narrative, and remember that truth always aligns with God's word. Let's expose all these lies and deception and point people back to Christ. What do you think they're hiding in Antarctica? Leave your thoughts in the comments and be sure to follow for more truth-seeking content. Many blessings.
Do you remember when they told us that this thing made it to the moon? I'm not even going to say the name, you know why. Apparently, this contraption made it to the moon. Upon closer inspection, though, there are some things that are very odd. And I have questions. Like, is it made with duct tape? Why does it look like it's made with duct tape, aluminum foil, and cardboard? No, come on. Do you remember when they brought this like a go-kart zoom buggy thingy? It broke a wheel and they fixed it with duct tape. Now, these are not my hypothesis. Check out the article.
And proceeded 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Ignition. Right away, Houston. Vector good.
Does anybody know who stayed behind to film that? Leave it? No? Am I dumb? Was that a dumb question? I'm sorry. I'd just like to know who filmed that.
Never know what's going to happen. This baby fell out of the sky and landed in our yard. It's never boring on the Welke farm. Thank God there's no horses out or it didn't hit the house. And it's still going and flashing.
The Flat Earth map dates back over 1,000 years. This map is credited to being created by a Persian astronomer. His name was Al-Biruni and he lived between 973 AD to 1048 AD. It's the official map of the United Nations and also the United States Geological Survey. It used to be present in many places before the creation of NASA and the Antarctic Treaty in 1959. Here you see it with Admiral Byrd. This map has been restored by Dmitry from Russia with suggestions of mine, Idialenkar. Known by my YouTube channel Flat Earth Banjo, I asked Dmitry to include the Bermuda Triangle and Point Nemo, a place deep in the Pacific where NASA buries rockets. Then Robert Tozzi, a professional mapmaker, came along and enhanced the map even more. There are many people now selling this map online, but if you could order it from my online store, I would greatly appreciate it. Visit my online store now and order one of the items. I humbly thank you.